Warning, the following episode contains spoilers. Viewer discretion is advised.
What do we say to the god of death?
Not today.
Hello everybody, welcome to Watch Mojo. I am Phoebe, this is Nick. Today we're talking Game of Thrones, and not just any Game of Thrones. We're talking Season 8, Episode 3, The Long Night. 'Twas a long night. What were your overall impressions of this episode?
Helm's Deep, eat your heart out. This was the longest battle ever set to film. The director, Miguel Sapochnik, studied Helm's Deep before filming this.
Yeah, it was really intense. So I have to be honest with you, my overall impressions of the beginning of the episode at least was that it was extremely dark. And I think that a lot of people are complaining about this online, talking about how it was really difficult to see anything. Now, we know with the behind the scenes featurette, D.B. Weiss and David Benioff said that in order to make the show authentic to the medieval setting, they've sort of taken back a little bit of lighting. So they said that they've been lighting a lot of their scenes with candles, etc., in order to make it authentic to the time. Authentic to the time, there's ice dragons. Like, I just felt like it was so needlessly dark. What do you think about that?
At least we had lots of things on fire to brighten it up, even if sometimes those were people.
Eee. Okay, let's get into some of the big moments from this episode. So the first 10 or so minutes of this episode, we have everybody preparing for the battle to come, and it's really bleak.
It's really suspenseful, everything's tense. We know that some of our characters are gonna die. I was stress eating for the first 15-20 minutes. I went through a pack of chips, a pack of Starbursts, and a Toblerone, and that was, I think, before the first wave of dead hit.
Yeah, it was definitely a heart-wrenching, look at Tyrion's face. Tyrion is typically the kind of guy who, he's a realist, but he also retains hope. Here he seems like he's just kind of I don't really know.
He's also been assigned to the crypts, so he doesn't. It's out of his control. He doesn't have any jobs to do.
Which we learn later is a very bad place to be.
Not the best idea.
So let's talk about the first attack. We see Melisandre arrive at Winterfell seemingly out of nowhere. She has a bit of a Gandalf moment, if you will, and she lights the swords of the Dothraki. So we know that this kind of gives them a little bit of hope in what is a pretty bleak situation.
Maybe too much hope.
Maybe too much hope, because as soon as they charge into battle, all of their lights are extinguished. Now, this kind of sets into motion a really important part of the episode, wherein Dany is seeing her people executed by the ton. So it's sort of changes their game plan.
So this is where the plan starts to unravel. Daenerys is understandably upset at seeing the Dothraki decimated, decides to fly from her dragon. Jon decides to follow her. Already there are, we see the plan starting to fall apart. I mean, understandably, that Daenerys doesn't want to sit there and watch her Dothraki die.
Yeah, I certainly think that if Jon were the one in her shoes, he would have done the same thing. I think that he kind of has a little bit of hesitance when she's ready to jump on her dragon. He says the Night King is coming, and she says the dead are already here, which I thought was such a powerful moment. And it just shows a little bit of a side of Daenerys that we haven't really seen this season, the compassion that she has for her people. So I thought that was really refreshing.
So as Daenerys and Jon fly up to give air support, we then see a wave of the dead arriving and hitting the first line of defense and just completely rolling over those first lines.
Yeah, I think that nobody had anticipated that it would be an easy battle, but
no one
this was
expected a zombie tsunami.
Insane. It was so hard to see in the episode, and I think that it did add to the suspense of it all. And when they were finally revealed this giant wave of whites attacking them, it was oh my God.
I definitely got some World War Z vibes, especially when they started hitting the wall and just piling up, their bodies over the wall.
Yeah, this was definitely an episode of Game of Thrones: The Walking Dead. They should have sent a raven to Rick Grimes.
True.
So another exciting or fiery part of this battle is when Melisandre decides to light the trenches on fire. So finally we have some light in this episode. We start seeing a little bit. What I don't think anybody was really anticipating was that she would have such an important and, pivotal role in this battle.
Yeah, she really plays a key role, and it's not the first or the last time in this battle. For me, was definitely the tensest scene. Watching her try to light that trench, she starts off confident. she's got it. And then, as the dead start coming closer and closer, you start seeing the panic and the desperation in her eyes. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and it's not usual that we see a character with so much confidence and ability like that get sort of rattled in that situation. So we felt the tension. There was so much tension in the beginning of this episode.
Meanwhile, in the air, we got what we've all been waiting for, dragon dogfight.
Yeah, this felt like kind of like pure fan service, but in the best way possible. And I think it gave us one of the most beautiful shots in Game of Thrones history, as you can see here. It kind of feels like the DreamWorks intro sequence with the little guy fishing off the moon, but I was like flabbergasted by the beauty of this fight sequence.
It was gorgeous. In any other moment, this would be a beautiful romantic moment. Jon and Daenerys riding their dragons above the clouds. But then, of course, the Night King swoops in from below.
Yeah, I felt like there was a lot of tension when they were caught in the blizzard and they finally come up for air above the clouds and they can see 5 feet ahead of them, but they have to wait for the Night King to reemerge. This was like really, really a tense moment. So Dany and Jon have their first, albeit small, victory where they knock the Night King off the ice dragon and severely injure it to the point where we thought it might have died. It turns out that it didn't. But this was kind of a victory for them.
This was a victory for them right up until the point where Daenerys' plan to kill the Night King using dragonfire also fails. Apparently the Night King is impervious to dragonfire.
Yeah, that little smile, I really wanted to punch him in the face.
Very smug.
Yeah, that very smug smile. I felt like that was kind of, I don't know, uncharacteristic of the Night King. There were a lot of moments that felt kind of meme-worthy in this episode. You know, we see him raising the dead like he did in Hard Home, the kind of like, come at me, crow vibe. And then his little smile, like he was a little bit of a smug ass in this episode.
He showed as much personality as the Night King has ever showed in this episode, even though that wasn't very much. I mean, he is death personified, so.
Yeah, he's an
got
ass personified. Let's talk about the crypts.
So the crypts, a lot of fans predicted that the crypts were not a great place to hide, given that they're surrounded by dead people and the Night King raises the dead. Turns out they were correct. That was a terrible idea.
That was definitely a bad place to be, and I think that a lot of people theorized that maybe they wouldn't be in danger since these dead bodies had been there for centuries and they were enclosed in these concrete crypts, but they have that super dead strength. So they were able to get free, and I think that a lot of people were injured in this
I'm just really glad we didn't see Headless Ned, because that would have just felt wrong.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting to recognize a character, but I mean, it's a decomposing body. I don't know that we would recognize anyone.
That's true. I also really, really loved the moment that Sansa and Tyrion had here. When they were hiding behind one of the stone coffins, when they pulled out their knives, I actually thought that they were going to go down Romeo and Juliet style.
Me too.
I didn't realize that they were going to rush out and try to help everyone get out.
Yeah, I don't think that Sansa and Tyrion would do something like that, but it definitely seemed like a moment that could have gone that way. This showed tremendous bravery, and I also think they showed a lot of love for each other. You know, Sansa says that Tyrion is the best husband that she ever had, and he doesn't have much competition. But I thought that it was a really sweet moment between two people who, under any other circumstance, maybe could have been together. So I thought that was a nice kind of bow on their relationship.
It was really nice, yeah. So as we said before, the Red Woman had a much bigger role than we were expecting. When Beric and the Hound rescue Arya, Melisandre kind of is there and gives Arya a nod and says, hey, remember I said you'd kill things with blue eyes?
Hint, hint.
What else has blue eyes?
Yeah, I think that this scene was so important. And knowing after the episode that they had planned to have Arya kill the Night King for 3 years, I think that we can go back in the series and kind of find these little moments where it was hinted at. So for example, when Arya is fighting with Brienne in the courtyard when she arrives at Winterfell, she does that little hand switch trick with the dagger that Bran gave her in the previous season, which could also be an indication that she would be the one to kill the Night King. There was also her training with the Hound, where he teaches her where armor is weakest, which is where she kills the Night King. If we go back a little further than 3 years though, Melisandre telling Arya, oh, you will kill many people with brown, green, and blue eyes. So this might have been like a bit of a co-opted prophecy, but I think it works so well and it serves the story so well that Arya would be the one to save humanity, essentially.
I think it works great because it is unexpected. I mean, honestly not many of us guessed that Arya was going to be the one to do this. All eyes are on Jon and Dany, but then Dany ends up completely pinned down with Jorah. Jon is stuck behind a wall, pinned down by the Ice Dragon, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Theon's had his last charge, the Night King's confronting Bran, and bang, Arya suddenly appears. She does her move, straight out of Rey from The Last Jedi, little hand switch move, sticks him with a pointy end.
Yeah, I definitely think this was an unexpected turn for the White Walker Night King drama, but it felt really right. I feel like this was like the culmination of all of Arya's training and all of her suffering, becoming this badass assassin, and I felt like it finally served a purpose. And there's a theme in this episode of purpose. Everybody serves a purpose. So, you have Theon, who his purpose was to save Bran, which he did to his best extent, and he kind of faced death head on when he was running towards the Night King.
Completed that sort of redemption arc.
Yeah, exactly. He started the series out as this kind of coward, and he became the brave man that he finished his story arc as.
We also had Beric served his purpose, and as did the Hound, both rescuing Arya.
Yeah, I definitely think that purpose is a really, really big theme in this episode.
So does this mean that Arya is the prince that was promised? We know that the prince that was promised was meant to be born in smoke and salt, beneath a bleeding star, to wake dragons from stone, and was also expected to wield the sword Lightbringer and to be a Targaryen. So does Arya fit into that role somehow, or
I don't think
what's
she does.
happening?
I don't think she does. I think she was just in the right place at the right time, and she walks very quietly.
My favorite part of this episode, though, was that sequence where everybody is just about to die. Jaime and Brienne and Podrick are up against the wall with all the whites coming, and there's this music swelling. It's a beautiful montage that was very reminiscent of what the director also did in Winds of Winter with the wildfire sequence.
Yeah, it was definitely like one of the more bleak moments in the episode. We don't really know that the twist is coming, and it's really, really awful to see all of our favorite characters, about to bite the dust. Now, speaking of character deaths, who did we lose in this episode?
So, to begin with, our first main character death was poor old Edison, Lord Captain Commander of the Night's Watch, died in one of the early charges.
Yeah, that one really hurt my heart. I felt like he was so brave and taking care of Sam, which is something that everybody loves to do, is take care of Sam. So it just kind of felt like a really, really sad, awful moment. Then we had Lyanna Mormont.
Easily the most epic death scene in this episode, in my opinion. The actress Bella Ramsey was actually only supposed to be in one scene originally, but the showrunners loved her so much that they decided to give her more screen time, which paid off in this scene.
Yeah, she definitely was one of the more badass, strong-headed female characters. So this felt like a really suitable death for her.
Yeah, agreed.
Very, very awful, bone-crunching sound when she's picked up by the giant. But she really, sacrificed herself for the greater cause. Another really sad death is Beric.
Beric Dondarrion, yeah, served his purpose.
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody to bring him back this time
Melisandre didn't
around.
even try.
No, she was just like, he's
like,
done.
he's done.
He's
Yeah.
done. He served his purpose.
Yeah.
Now, a little bit more sad death, Theon.
Theon, yeah.
Greyjoy.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he was definitely, we kind of knew that he was going to die. And
Yeah.
I didn't think that he was going to make it through the season. But I didn't realize that his last stand would be so courageous. I mean, I think he knew he was going to die.
Yeah.
He knew that he wasn't going to kill the Night King with his spear or whatever he was holding.
He really wanted to go out with a bang, and I thought that was so honorable,
Yeah.
and he really made it up to, the family. He
Yep.
protected Bran to the best of his ability, which was really, really amazing. Now, speaking of noble deaths, Jorah.
I think this was definitely the biggest tearjerker.
Yeah, it hurt.
He died by Daenerys' side. That's what he would have wanted.
I know it's what he would have wanted. I know that
Just
it's
not
really
what we
it's
wanted.
what the character would have wanted, because Jorah is someone who's been by Daenerys' side pretty much for the entire series. They've had their little tiffs, and he's had his moments, but I felt like he really, really loved her and accepted the fact that she didn't love him back in the way that he maybe wanted her to, but it didn't dim, the affection and the love that he had for her, and he believed in her so much. And I think that the way that he went out is the way that he would have wanted to go out. He was protecting the woman that he loved and who he thought was best to rule the Seven Kingdoms.
Although I do wish that we could have heard his last words. You know, he was about to say something there, and Game of Thrones didn't give him that moment. Maybe it would have been too cheesy and not realistic enough. He opened his mouth and then his eyes glazed over. It was all over.
That was really sad. It would have been
It was really
even
sad.
sadder had we seen him rise and, you know, maybe try and kill Daenerys. So
yeah.
thankfully that
Thankfully that didn't happen.
So the final epic character death in this episode is Melisandre.
Another character whose purpose had been served.
Yeah. My question is, do you think that Davos would have killed her had she not taken off her necklace and turned to dust?
I definitely think that he was thinking about it, at least.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of characters who get redemption arcs in this episode, and I think that she's one of them. You know, we've kind of seen her as a little bit of a villain in the series.
Well, a little bit, like burning people alive, burning a
Burning
child
little girls
alive,
alive,
you know,
yeah, well,
dabbling
you know.
in evil.
Well, I mean, Stannis is to blame for that one. But anyway,
I don't know if she was redeemed, but I think she definitely fulfilled her purpose.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It seems like she finally figured out the nature of the prophecies or what was meant to be and gave things a push in the right direction.
Yeah, and she made mistakes along the way, but in the end,
In the end, it's the
She's-
journey that
she
matters.
saved a lot of people.
It's true,
So yeah. So we asked you viewers on our community post, what's next? And y'all had some pretty interesting comments. This one here. The Night King was never going to be the final boss. Martin has long said he hated how Tolkien used Sauron and Mordor as the big bad in Lord of the Rings and wanted a more human, relatable villain. Cersei was always going to be the final villain in Game of Thrones, ever since she killed Ned Stark. Well, she didn't really kill Ned Stark, but beyond that, I think that this is a really, really interesting prophecy for the series.
It's interesting because now that we've already seen the big battle with the Night King, there's a danger that the remaining 3 episodes will be a little anticlimactic. On the other hand, however, it means that now we have the chance to get back to doing what Game of Thrones does best, which is all the political intrigue and the interaction between the human characters.
Yeah, a lot of people are also prophesizing that Arya will kill Cersei. Now, what do you think about
I
that?
don't think she's going to get all the glory there. I think she had her moment. I think probably someone else will kill Cersei. I think it's going to be Jaime.
Me too. I think it's going to be Jaime. I think that Arya has kind of had her big moment, and a big moment it was, but I don't think that she'll be the one to kill Cersei. So what did you guys think of the episode? What were your favorite moments, and what do you think is going to happen next? Let us know in the comments below, and we will see you next week for another breakdown of Game of Thrones.